collateralized forgivable capital, and I assume that that's similar to what we're talking about with the disaster assistance bill that I mentioned earlier in my testimony.
Yeah, Congressman Braley, I commend you and Congressman King, because you're right on with what's needed for these small businesses. If you can buy time for these small businesses with that $28,000, you're giving them some means to move ahead and have some hope of reopening. And one thing we haven't really talked about, and I don't know how you work this in, but there are a lot of small businesses that are suffering that didn't go through the flood, but they're suffering because so much of the other businesses in the community have been damaged. So the ripple of this is much more than just the numbers we've kind of told you, 1,200 here, 1,300 here. It's much more substantial than that. And so we need to get these small businesses back and operating, and the forgivable loan, the grant, whatever we want to call it, is critical. We don't want to call it a grant because then it's probably taxable, but if it's forgivable loan, it's a little better for their structure.
Somewhat about what we were talking about doing with Wall Street this week.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of us in this room who think that the people on Main Street deserve just as much attention. The collateral and combined impact of the small businesses in this state and this country who are impacted by a variety of disasters has an enormous ripple throughout our economy, and I think that it's time that we start looking at some of the critical needs that come up over and over every time there's a disaster of this magnitude, because this isn't the first time we've heard about the need for available cash. And with that, I'll turn it over to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, everyone, for their testimony. I know you've been through some amazing things this year, and thank you for your fortitude to continue on and to continue down the line that the chairman was just talking about. If you look at the things we're talking about on Capitol Hill this week, some of those are somewhat man-made. The things that you went through this year are natural disasters, and no fault of your own, and we understand that. I've been a small business owner myself for about 20 years, so I know what it is and the impact that it has on the local community. You have made decisions in your own businesses over time. I know there's a place for government to come in and help, but I'm just going to ask all of you, did you have flood insurance in your business, and did flood insurance work in your businesses? And we'll just go down the line.
Yeah, we did have flood insurance, and it did work well for us.
What role did it play? And did it come in more quickly than the SBA? And what role did SBA then take on to help fill the gap that the flood insurance didn't cover? Help me understand that. We'll just talk that through as we go down the line.
Yeah, the flood insurance, we actually were paid, if I remember right, about a month after the flood, our flood insurance made a payment to us. And then, of course, the SBA loan documents are derived so that any proceeds you get from insurance are deducted from the loan amount. So you have to wait and make a lot of decisions because you don't know what a decision today with the SBA is going to affect tomorrow. So that's kind of a complication.
Okay.
We did not have any flood insurance. When we'd asked about it years ago, they said that we weren't in the floodplain, and at the time I was only hearing bad comments about it. You know, it was people thought that they had been paying this premium along and they had a problem, and when they ended up getting their settlement wasn't anything what they were expecting it to be. And I know from the current flood, I heard a story from a business in Elkader that they'd had flood insurance. They had to get it because of their loan at the bank. And when they went to get the amount, they were only getting paid for the physical damage to the building. Well, the problem that they had was most of their value was in their inventory and in their tools and different things they had. So they were in a world of hurt, thinking that they were going to get some money back to compensate for trying to get them back in business, and all they were going to pay for was sheetrock.
Following down that line, is there something that needs to be done to fix that program, to make that better so it covers your inventories?
What I ended up this time, after the flood, I did get some insurance. We have our local insurance agent, brought choices to me, and and we went over what the different possibilities were, and I made sure, after hearing that guy's story, that my policy includes a certain dollar amount for content and a certain amount for the business. The problem is that it won't be enough for me to go back into business. It would be enough to help to dampen the damage, but I can't take that payment and be up in business again. And if you went to a value that high, they have to split it down. They can only go up to a certain dollar amount, or you got to get an additional policy, so then you're paying on two different policies, and I've just said, okay, I'll just go the maximum that I can for the one policy, and I'll have to be my self-insurance again, and that's really going to be a problem this time, because before I owned everything that went out into the dumpsters and everything, that was something I've already paid for, okay? Now I've got a loan to put that stuff back in, so if I got to pay on the loan and then I have to pay to try and do it again, that's why I started my talk with saying, please fix our bypass, because boy, if we have it again, it's going to be a lot worse in Elkader the second time than it was this time. Because with that flood wall gone and a lot of those historic buildings at risk and the chance of it happening again, it's not a good deal. We're going to need some help in that.
Is FEMA working on that for you? I know you got some great members of Congress, and they'll be working with you, but has FEMA talked about fixing?
I haven't been in the committees when they talked about it, but I'm sure that there's enough people in Elkader that want it said. And I know they had a lot of people on Main Street wanting me to mention it when I came. Just keep it try and make it on the front burner a little bit, because it's not a deal that we can wait 2-3 years. It's something that we need to have help soon.
And it would save taxpayers dollars in the future if they fix it before the next flood. And you've got some great members who'll take care of that. This is going down the line.
No, I did not have flood insurance. I did check into it in April when the water levels were high up there at that time as well. It wasn't near flood stages for us, but it's high. I was told by the insurance agent that we use that they basically divide it up in A, B, and C levels, and my store is in C level, which is the same thing as all the rest of Anamosa. And for me to add it to my insurance was almost $1,000 a month. Now, why would I add something $1,000 a month that all the rest of Anamosa is in the same class as me, so it's never going to happen. Month and a half later, there we were.
Thank you.
I did not have flood insurance, and I've talked to maybe one person in Cedar Rapids that did have, or one business person that did have flood. I don't think anybody did. And we were in the 500-year floodplain, so there was really no incentive to pay that extra premium for insurance. It was never mentioned, in fact.
Do you think that's something that the community is taking a look at now? The business owners that you think it's on people's minds now, maybe we need to go back and take a look at that as an option?
Definitely.
Okay. Mr. Pilkington, if I could ask you a few questions. What type of technical assistance did the Business Community Services Outreach Program provide to small businesses